we're actually going to just restart the caucus meeting right now. It's important to run. We just had our school children leave. They participated in councilman and mayor for the day for using. So I'm calling the meeting to order. Again, at 7 p.m. on May 8th, is the caucus meeting for mayor and council by the Cliff. Madam Clerk, have a roll call, please.
Mayor Kranjak?
Here.
Councilpersons Wu?
Here.
Song?
Here.
Sabari?
Here.
Councilwoman Park will be a few minutes late. Councilman Verso?
Here.
Councilwoman O? Here. Borough Attorney?
Here.
Municipal Clerk. Everyone's present there except Councilwoman Park.
And you read into the record the Open Public Meetings Act.
Adequate notice of this meeting was given to the press and posted as required. Date and time of this meeting was legally given as required by the Open Public Meetings Act. This notice is on file with the municipal clerk and posted on the bulletin board. Minutes of this meeting will be made available to the public upon the completion of typing and proofreading by the municipal clerk.
Thank you. What I'd like to do is ask Mr. Danley to present to us, welcome, he's our borough engineer from IBM Associates, regarding 5th Street, and then we'll have another matter with you in closed session.
So do you want to come and join us?
I have full boards. So really just a brief update on the status of 5th Street. I believe Mazer had started some work to do some estimates and then estimates for assessments as well. So we've received the preliminary concept that they prepared and their estimates. We're currently actually reviewing it to confirm that all the prices that they had assigned are current with the prices that we're seeing right now. And then just take a look at it as well for potentially any items that they may have overlooked or just weren't considering at the time. I apologize. So on quick analysis, and what you actually see before you is it's what would be considered a full, complete build-out if necessary or appropriate at this time. So what's also included in here that previously wasn't included in the prior concept prepared by the former borough engineer, and we also have included in here sanitary improvements as well as water. And what's hard to see on here is also some utility poles that would need to be included for the development of 5th Street. There are some considerations to that, and I believe Mazer didn't include it previously because really the borough's concern at this point is the extension of the road. The extension of the road would really only include extending a stormwater management system as well, which is what was included in the prior estimate. One other thing that's not depicted on here that would also be potentially required is a retaining wall on the west side. It's not depicted on here, but roughly in the area where the label is indicated as proposed 8-inch DIP, roughly center on the plans. About a wall of about 50 feet because of the grade change. So on the bottom, I should have oriented you, I apologize. On the bottom of the sheet is 6th Street. Yeah. And then 5th Street has all the utilities depicted within it. 9WS is on the top of the sheet. So north is to the right. To the left. Yeah, and Bayview is on the right. So where we are right now, really, we're just taking a look to confirm the estimate and costs that will be associated with the development of 5th Street. And then again, really, I think the analysis that has to, or the decision that has to be made is whether or not the borough would be interested in assisting with the installation of utilities as well, meaning gas, water, electric, and sanitary. Because really, with the borough's concern being the extension of the road only requires the road itself and stormwater management. The additional utilities and services that would be required, that's the question. Do we want to have, will we want to have a complete project where all the utilities are installed right now, and then charge developers as they come in for the cost of the utility services? Or do we put in a road and just the drainage, And then in the future, as developers come in that wish to develop the individual parcels, they would then reopen the road to install those utilities. So there's pros and cons to each option. Obviously, there's an upfront expense if you want to do that now, but then the road is closed and sealed. However, what happens is you'll have dry utilities. You'd have a water line that extends down to the north end of Fifth Street that wouldn't be utilized. You'd have a sanitary sewer similarly that would also be extended down to the end of the road that also wouldn't be utilized. But you preserve the road itself. So there's some pros and cons.
How much land is undeveloped?
The subdivided parcels, I believe there were 9 parcels that could be developed at this time, that are currently vacant.
And what would be on which side?
We looked at, and I apologize, the lots and blocks weren't included on here. We were simply looking at it from the global perspective. On the east side, there's a large lot on the left side of the sheet that we looked at as being subdivided into 3 parcels. And then there's 1 parcel adjacent to that, to the right. So that would be 4 there.
East side and the side on the right?
The side on the bottom of the sheet. Close to Hudson Terrace, yeah, on the bottom of the sheet. So there are potentially 4 parcels there. Where you see the yellow line that bisects the sheet, there's a parcel there. If that parcel is subdivided, then you can put potentially a development there as well, so that would be 5. And then you have 1 more further to the right on the sheet, and then as well as a couple lots that currently aren't developed. There's one, if you look on the top left of the sheet, that lot is filled with stone right now. But I could, yeah. Okay.
And this occurred, current area. The building, 3 homes, 3 most recent homes, 1 is still under construction.
Mayor, Councilwoman, Foster, I box, so
Again, so just for the public's orientation, the top of the sheet is basically where Sylvan Avenue is. The middle of the sheet is 5th Street, and then 6th Street is on the bottom of the sheet, with Bayview to the right, and then, is it Washington to the left. So I think we were talking about which parcels were available for development. So we identified the 4 parcels on the left side of the sheet, and then an additional potential, yeah, 3 in the large lot plus 1 potentially additional, so 4 lots there. I believe it was 150 feet.
Right now, the houses that are there,
They do. They don't have any stones, correct.
our decision, the council is going to include, are we going to improve the street to put the gas, electric, storm, and sanitary street?
Yes. Or just the road, it's either just the road and storm, or all of the utilities, which would also then include gas, electric, sanitary, and water.
And the road and storm right now necessary because...
Anytime you're putting in, anytime you're putting in a road, you have to put the drainage in with it as well. So that's why those two have to go together. Because the storm serves the road. However, all the other utilities, the water, gas, electric, and sanitary, those serve the developments. So that's why those two are separated. The electric was extended down 5th Street, so there are some poles. They're a little difficult to see on this as the color is similar to the background, but there are utility poles for the electric that were extended down the street. I believe the gas was also extended. It's not, they would have, for the properties to the west or the left side of the sheet. However, the properties on the right side of the sheet wouldn't have access to those services. Yes, that's right. And then
So in reality, there's electric needs 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, right, and perhaps
yes.
that would be,
Which is what also complicates then if the borough were to consider doing those extensions right now, because then how do you assign those costs if appropriate? Because some homes and some developments have access, whereas others do not. So then are you going to do a separation of assignments, or do you just blanket and do an assessment based on the property frontage on the road and just distribute it equally? So that's why there's some level of complication if we wanted to proceed with including all the utilities right now. Whereas if we simply worry about the road and the drainage, then the utility improvements that are necessary for any developments would be the responsibility of whichever developer comes in and wanted to develop the properties.
The owner of these properties requested, or under the planning board, doing a final? I know that the residents actually live on this one as well. But what about the vacant? The vacant one? The reason why I'm asking is I'm trying to understand why we would go ahead and outlay that money to set them down the road, unless they're actually pursuing it. So,
the only plus is that they don't have to pursue. Other than that, there's no reason.
That's essentially the benefit. And since it's the borough's road, we prefer not to have to, especially since all these parcels are owned by different entities. They may come in, you may have 2 1 year and none for 5 years, and have one come in another year, and they're constantly opening the road up again. There's methods to repair roads that are somewhat seamless, but anytime you open a road and put in a trench, you're always going to get different levels of compaction and settlement in the road. So that's the primary benefit.
If you come back to us with the economics.
Yeah. Yes. I actually haven't had a chance to speak with her, but I do understand that there was some confusion between their application being pulled and their desire to approve the easement. They are still interested in granting the easement through their property, which would be necessary for the stormwater management connection. Without that easement, this project actually can't happen.
And which property?
That's the yellow line that goes from the top of the sheet to the bottom of the sheet. That is where the easement would be with the storm sewer pipe. And I believe it's, Gold Valley Developers. So that's one of the matters that we also need to confirm, that they would still be willing to grant that easement through their property. We've had communications with the borough engineer for Fort Lee, and they did indicate that they would be willing to allow Englewood Cliffs to tie into their sewer system. However, the difficulty is that, I mean, if you've driven out here, you can see the rock at the surface, at about the point where the gravel road starts. And that's generally the high point from a topographic perspective. So we're really fighting the grade to get the sewer back the other way, and with the rock there, it becomes extremely expensive to do that. So ideally, if sanitary is required, and if a trench is cut for the stormwater between 5th Street and 6th Street, we'll know what materials are there, and there will have already been a trench cut, and ideally, we tie in that way.
So we'll invite you back.
Okay.
And then we're ready.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Is anyone from the public who is here
Lauren Eastwood, Four-Wheeler Drive. There are currently 3 recently constructed houses on 5th Street. How are they connecting to the borough's sanitary sewer system? Are they going through that easement now, or are they connecting to Fort Lee?
That's a damn question.
Pointed out there actually. They had, during the application review process, these 3 properties, they have, the backyard here, through the driveway property.
Okay.
So they have a bucket meeting together, so they can have a sewer pass.
Okay, so we have no experience with the proposed easement to know what's underground there.
I mean, it's close by. It would give some indication of the type of soils that we have.
Yeah, but the rocks
Yes.
are random.
Very close.
Anybody else wish to be heard?
I'm sorry. I'm Mary O'Shea, 12 Irving Avenue. I would like to speak to the conduct of the council meetings. The outrageous behavior that started with Ellen Park and now Debbie Sabari joins the people that have no decorum. These individuals speak without being recognized, speak over others that have the floor, speaking over members of the public, inserting items not on the agenda, making motions that are incomplete regarding hiring without the name of the person, the scope of the inquiry, or the dollar amount of the cost. In my opinion, the borough attorney should have advised the council to open to the public on an item that was being added without notice. Opening a meeting without the required quorum and then going into private session and staying there until they could summons Jimmy Song and Ed Aversa to come at 9:50 and 10:10 to make the quorum, then come back into public. This is wrong. I believe that it is an illegal meeting, as it did not start at the advertised time, and the borough attorney, the acting mayor, council president, and the borough administrator clerk should have not proceeded. Similar to a forfeit in a sports game where the other team does not have enough players, they forfeit. The council majority does not want to allow the public to comment and have limited the time for public to comment. They never answer questions. They never come back with answers. Councilman Aversa has not updated the public regarding the applicants for the chief, yet after the meeting, he gives the newspaper reporter that information. The Democratic Council people do not wait for the section of the meeting for discussion of new business. They do not present their ideas at the caucus to get input from the other members before taking action and have discussion. Point of record, the Affordable Housing Plan was a bipartisan plan that had input from both Republicans and Democrats. All were present with the planner and the attorneys when discussions took place. The professionals took the comments from all present and then prepared the plan. Another item that needs to be addressed is the change in retirement benefits. I mentioned some of them last month. The town pays for the medical for retirees, and that medical should be the state plan, irregardless. The controversy regarding the $75 copay for the emergency room was outrageous last year. The town pays Social Security payments for retired employees and their spouses for the Medicare and Part D programs. This is an unnecessary expense as our employees retire with generous pensions. The lowest paid workers in society pay their own Medicare and Social Security benefit payments. This should be removed from all contracts and from all employees. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
Carol McMorrow, 489 Summit Street. I'm just going to say I'm a little surprised that we're even well, I shouldn't say. I'm surprised. You obviously aren't. That was part of our plan, that land for fulfilling our affordable housing. Clearly, if you're having this discussion, it's no longer on the table, and I'm very disappointed to see this type of a premature discussion, given you haven't updated the public on anything yet. But everything is being done with absolutely no transparency and no reporting to the public. Mr. Marinello, you are the borough attorney. I looked up and I see you also were the borough attorney in Edgewater. I don't know what other towns you were borough attorney in. There are a lot of things going on here, and as borough attorney, I don't see you correct what I view in I've had 6 years experience as being a sitting council person, wrongs, multiple violations of the Open Public Meetings Act repeatedly. And you sit there and you do not educate the council, even if they're making a mistake and they're not aware of it. You're not saying, you need to correct this, or don't do this, or correct it for the next time. You're not correcting anything. That is a major disappointment. You're hired as a borough attorney to advise the council when wrongdoing occurs, and you are not doing that, in my opinion. I've witnessed 3 people sitting up here, and you opened a meeting. You go in that room, and all of a sudden when they come out, you got 5. How do you multiply from 3 to 5? I don't understand how that happens, because I sat here the whole time, and nobody walked into the meeting. Clearly, they're going in through some back door, which I don't even understand how that's legal. They should enter in the way everyone enters in, through the front, not through a back door, because then anybody could be walking out. You could be having one person in that room, and no one's going to know what's going on. It should be transparent, it should be open, and everyone should be able to view what's going on. If you're not doing anything wrong, then you have nothing to hide. But when you act that way, it gives the public the opinion that you are doing wrong things. At the last meeting, I asked everyone, is anything being added to the agenda? And all of you stated no. And adding anything to the agenda includes a motion. Now, I understand you weren't here, your associate was here, but he didn't correct that. If the public asks, are you adding anything to the agenda, and you emphatically say no, this is all of you. You all are sitting council people. Okay, Mr. Bryan, Mr. Song are new. Everybody else is seasoned. And if you're adding something, tell the truth and just say, we are adding this after we came out of closed session. And they lied to the public. They outright lied. She made a motion to investigate the mayor and myself. On what? On what? There was no clarity on who you're hiring, what the scope is. You're spending money. I don't have to tell any of you that you have to have a resolution if you're spending money. There was no resolution. And I'm hearing them say things that they're violating so many laws and rules. And sir, watch the videotapes. It's blatant. You're going to go into closed session? Now you're open before. We're not going to have the opportunity to ask, are you adding anything, and then know about it. And I'm asking now, if you're adding anything to this agenda, and each one of you that I sat and worked with, you know that when we came out of closed, if we added something from closed, Anne Marie, and I made sure as council president that it got added to the agenda, okay? And if Lizette forgot, or Anne Marie forgot, one of us reminded someone here. You need to work together and do the right thing, because it's disgusting. You're not acting as council people and elected officials. And Ms. Park, stop laughing. This is not funny. You're breaching your fiduciary duties to this town. You are an elected official. I am...
Again then, and everybody at home is watching.
They can all watch,
Yeah.
Ms. Park. I'm not here to debate with you.
Yeah.
You are violating the laws.
You're making, you know what SUE stands for, that we teach at school? You're making assumptions that you have no idea about, number one, and you're spreading lies out there.
I'm not spreading any lies, ma'am, and I'm asking you to refrain from additionally defaming me and portraying me in a false light. Okay, last thing, I see, sir, on pending litigation, you have Oprah litigation. I was taught you cannot write it as Oprah litigation. You must cite the suit. 4 borough attorneys have stated that to me, okay, that I have worked under, all different firms. You cannot say Oprah litigation, because you can always get Oprah litigation in the future, if you don't even know about. You must, if you're going in there for a specific Oprah litigation, you just have to put the Oprah litigation on there, and that's all I'm bringing to your attention. I appreciate if you can just put which Oprah lawsuit you're going into closed session for. And that's it. And if there's anything added to the agenda when you come out, please state it in caucus and provide the public with the proper information. Thank you.
So 2 points. I did try to open to the public after Mr. Savari added something to the agenda last time. I think part of it is communication between council and council. Your associate was here, and it became a bit of a burden. So we rely on you and your firm to give us good advice when we need it, and so does the council. So otherwise, everybody else is jammed up here. Anybody else from the public wishing to be heard? I have a motion to close the public portion. All in favor? Have a motion to go into closed session. All in favor? Madam Clerk, would you please read the appropriate language for us to go into closed session?
Whereas the mayor and council of Borough of New York have deemed it necessary to go into closed session to discuss certain confidential matters, whereas the minutes of the closed session will be confidential as permitted under the Public Meetings Act, shall be released when there is no further need for confidentiality as authorized by the borough attorney. Now therefore be resolved that the mayor and council of the Borough of New York will go into closed session for the following matters permitted under the Public Meetings Act and the United States and the Common Core. Pending litigation, on the Borough of New York, affordable housing, 800 Children Avenue LLC versus the Borough of New York, Mayor and Council Planning Board, 800 Avenue LLC versus Planning Board, Builder Suit and Challenge, Planning Board denial. Number 4, Oprah litigation. And number 5, personnel matters include chief appointment, tax department. Number 7, purchase use and condition of new property, PSC substation. Number 8, township, utilizing protecting the safety and property of public school related.
Thanks. We'll see everyone in half an hour. No later. Okay, have a motion to come out of closed session. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the public, thank you for waiting. We had, the first half hour of our meeting was with our upper school students, doing a student council project with us. I'll tell you more about that later. So, I think we've done everything we need to do at caucus. We've already opened to the public. So what I'd like to do is move on to the regular meeting, and if it's okay with everyone, I'd like to have a motion to adjourn this public. In favor?
Aye.
Thank you.